Ta-da! Well, what do you think? It's hard to believe that I used to wear this all the time. Can you believe that? I mean, when I ate breakfast and when I went to school. You can imagine how that went down. Do you want to know why? I'm Aubrey, and I'm 14. Well, I became obsessed that I might fall over or be in an accident, and it completely took over my life. Do you ever get that? Like, honestly, I could not think of anything else. If you do, then don't leave it like I did, because my accident fear put others in great danger. Yeah, it's gonna be one of those stories. So to start with, I wasn't always like this. I had no sense of danger. And then one day, when I was doing something that didn't involve any danger whatsoever, aka walking down the road, something totally unexpected happened. I fractured my shoulder in 2 places, fractured my cheekbone, and twisted my ankle. I was in the hospital for weeks. And then I had to rest at home for weeks. This was cool because number 1, I didn't have to go to school, and number 2, I didn't have to do any chores. Kai, my older brother, had to do mine, and he was not happy. He also had to get my homework from school. Kai and I really didn't get along that well, so we avoided each other as much as possible. We couldn't agree on anything. He wanted it quiet, so, I quote, his t-shirt designs would come to him in the silence. And I was like, that's pathetic and weird, and all I want to do is make TikTok videos. Luckily for me, Kai spent a lot of time in the garage as he used the space to design and make his own t-shirts. His business was really starting to take off. Oh, and just a side note here, Kai's t-shirt designs were really cool, but I pretended that I hated them, just on principle. Even some of my friends at school who followed his Insta said my brother was cool, which I hated, cause I knew him better. Have I ever fantasized about Kai moving to Alaska and living in one of those tents that hangs from the side of a mountain? Sometimes. Have I ever fantasized about him legally emancipating from our parents? A little. And after weeks and weeks and weeks of bed rest, I was finally ready to go back into the real world again. Back to school. But then something strange happened. For some reason, I didn't feel safe. And I felt hot all of a sudden. I thought it was a one-off, but then I thought, what if I fall again? What if I tripped over a loose stone? What if I cut myself when I opened the garden fence? And so it began. What if I choked on my food? What if someone at school bumped into me and sent me flying? And then I noticed I felt like this more and more and more. I started to fear everything. I was so scared about having another accident. At first, I didn't want to tell anyone about how I felt. But soon, of course, people started to notice. Including Kai. I eventually told Mom that I had all these irrational fears all the time, like falling into a toilet bowl and drowning, or being knocked over by a dog. But she said none of what I was thinking would ever likely happen, and I should try not to think about it. Easier said than done, right? So I tried to prevent any accidents from happening. It started to take over everything. I stopped doing TikTok dances as I was so scared I would fall. And soon, I stopped going out with my friends. I rarely left the house and never wanted to leave my room. I always made excuses like I was ill or had to study, but I couldn't study as I couldn't concentrate. I was still catching up from when I was in the hospital, and my grades were falling fast. Then one day, Mom had had enough. She told me this couldn't go on and wanted me to see a therapist. So I did, and you'd think that this was the end of my story. You know, I got help and everything was okay. Well, it wasn't. Sure, I went to the appointment and she said some really interesting things, like that I had a condition called dystynchophobia. FYI, it's pronounced dystynchophobia. Someone who gets extreme anxiety at the thought of being in an accident. But then she said that she wanted to give me this thing called exposure therapy, where I would have to face my fears head on. I was like, what? Did I just hear you right? But I did not fancy that at all. So I refused to go. It got so bad that I only left my room to use the bathroom. I hadn't gone outside in weeks, and I refused to go to school. Deep down, I knew I needed help, but I just didn't want to face my fears. But that's my story, so here we go. Something happened which changed everything. One day, I heard a loud crash from the garage. I thought, oh no, what if the house is collapsing room by room? And then I heard it. My name shouted over and over again. And help! It was Kai. I was sure it was just another of Kai's stupid pranks. But his cries continued, and he started to sound really, really desperate. I had to see if he was okay. I could see that the shelving had fallen and Kai was trapped. I heard Kai beg me for help, that he was in pain. I thought, what if something else falls and we both get trapped? And Kai yelled out again in pain. But it was no good. He was trapped by that heavy shelf. Kai told me to go outside and get help. That's right. Cue the "that's my story" gasp. I thought, me? Go outside? Oh yeah, that happened. Sorry. Gross, I know. I thought, what if I fell and knocked myself out and couldn't help Kai at all? But I could hear Kai in pain. The neighbor helped me lift the shelving, and Kai was finally free. Mom was ever so grateful that I saved Kai. And guess who else was really grateful? Kai. He was a changed brother. He said he was sorry for always winding me up, and he'd never do it again. And guess what? I went back to therapy to try that exposure therapy. And although I do occasionally find myself worrying I will be in an accident, I have been given ways to calm me down and direct my thoughts elsewhere. Accidents happen, right? Oh, and if you want to hear the crazy thing that happened to Kai's t-shirt business, write "annoying Kai" in the comments.
In and out. They said I should take deep breaths whenever I felt angry or had anxiety. It would make me feel better and calm me down. That or count to 10. I am Serena, and I am 14, and I have a serious anger management problem. Everyone wants me to do this, but instead, I want to do this.